My name is Eric Chappelle, Community Evangelist for InfraWorks 360, and with me today is Nick Zeeben, Product Manager for InfraWorks 360, and he's actually going to be your main presenter, the one that you all came to hear today. Before we get into that, though, I just wanted to welcome everyone to our new webcast series. We're on our second webcast, and we plan to do this twice a month on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. Some of you may remember the old Dave and Dan show that we had for Civil 3D back in the day, and we're trying to do something similar to that where we give you guys a chance to hear from the product team on a regular basis. And the goals with this are, to inform you about what's going on with InfraWorks 360 from the perspective of the product team, the folks that are, developing the features that you use. It's also a way to give you a chance to ask questions and provide feedback, and just in a general sense, bring the users of the product closer together with the folks who are developing it, so that as a company, as Autodesk, we can put out a better product for you guys. Just so you know, our next webcast will be on May 20th, and we're going to cover InfraWorks and Civil 3D interoperability. So be looking for that, the link for that on the InfraWorks 360 community site. I've got the URL up there. So when you want to register for the next one, the interoperability one, go ahead up to this site. That link will be posted probably in the next couple of days. Right now, the link is for this for today's website. Also, you want to make sure you follow InfraWorks 360 on Facebook and Twitter, because we post information about the webcasts there as well. Some other webcast topics we're thinking of having, just so you kind of get an idea what we're thinking of. If you have ideas for topics, please let us know. You can actually put them in the chat or question window now if you want, or at any time during the presentation if you come up with a good idea. With that in mind, I wanted to do a couple of polls here. The first one has to do with what you see on the screen. What webcast topic do you want to see next? So please make your choice. I've kind of gone through this list of topics and some other ones we've talked about, and let us know what you would like to see the most as far as future topics. And I'll give you guys a few seconds to make your selections there. People are still clicking away, so I'll let it up for a few more seconds. Definitely looks like customizing is going to take first place with intersection design. A pretty close second. All right, I'm going to close down that one. And we also want to know a little bit about how you're using InfraWorks 360. So that's the next poll. So I'll go ahead and launch that. And this is a question we're going to ask probably at every webcast, so we can kind of keep a tab on how the usage level is increasing over time. So please make your selection and let us know what your usage level of InfraWorks 360 is right now. It's nice to see we've got a fair number of people who are using it regularly. Of course, we'd like that couldn't live without it selection to be the winner, but we'll work towards that. And there's still some folks making choices there, so I'll leave it open for a couple more seconds. All right. Well, it looks like of the people who are in attendance, most of you are using it regularly, with 35% coming in there. So I want to talk to you guys about the InfraWorks 360 community. This is a page that's constantly undergoing change. You can see the URL there, autodesk.com, InfraWorks 360 community. We've got a feed for the forum in there if you've participated in the user forum. It's a great way to ask questions not only of us but of other users of the product. We've also got the gallery on the community site where you can publish pictures and videos of things that you're working on in InfraWorks 360, and people can comment on them and like them. It's really cool to have a project or two up in the gallery and have a lot of activity around it and see what the community thinks of it. We've also got the social hub, which is a live feed of Facebook and Twitter and various blogs that all have to do with InfraWorks 360. We've got the latest videos, we've got information on upcoming webcasts, and in the very near future we'll have our webcast recordings available as well. I've got the request in to publish last webcast recording to the site. It hasn't been done yet, but it will be in the near future. And as time goes on, you'll see an archive of all of our webcast recordings up there. We also want you to visit the forum, which I mentioned just a minute ago, is a great place to interact with other users and with us. Great place to get answers to questions. And you'll also find a link to the idea station there, which is where you can post your ideas of what you'd like to see in the InfraWorks 360 product. If you've got something that you're telling everyone, man, I really wish InfraWorks could do this, the idea station is the place to put it out there, not only for us, but for other users to gather support on your idea and really get a lot of attention around it. And the more support you generate around an idea, it's definitely going to increase the chances of it being implemented in the software. We may talk about features in the software that are part of either a preview or a future version, and we just want to make sure you know that we've got this legal disclaimer that there are no promises that anything that you'll see in a future or preview release that's actually going to be in the release. So we have to make sure we cover the bases there legally. Ask lots of questions while Nick's doing his presentation. You should have a question chat window to interact with. We've got product team members standing by to answer your questions. And because of the size of our group, it's pretty tough to open the phone lines and have audio questions. So the questions or the chat window, I'm not sure which one you have, is the way to go. So please ask lots of questions. The more questions we have, the more we have to talk about, and it just makes it that much more interesting. So with that, I'm going to switch it over to Nick. And Nick, you can take it away.
All right, thanks, Eric. Get the right thing on screen here, and then we'll get started. So my name is Nick Zeeben. As Eric said, I'm one of the product managers for InfraWorks. Specifically, I have my team's focus around the road design capabilities in the product. So helping out on the question side, I've got a couple of folks from teams that I work with. Scott Kent is one of our quality analysts. So Scott is helping answer questions today. And I've got Ashish Gedboy. He's one of the user experience designers. So how things come to look in the product is Ashish's domain, and making sure that things that are in the product work is Scott's. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with us, and hopefully we can spend some time talking a little bit about how some of the road design tools work, more specifically than the fact that they're just there in the product today. And we'll also see if we can't leave some time to sort of run through a bunch of questions at the end. So, so we get a lot of feedback, or a lot of, I don't know if it's feedback, but a lot of questions around what the road design tools that we have, and specifically everything I'm going to cover is going to be roadway design vertical inside of InfraWorks today. So specifically how those road layout tools work, what's going on, what's causing certain behaviors, and things like that. So in essence, what we do with the road layout tools inside of InfraWorks is we use road type, and as a derivative of road type selection, design speed, and then we reference a set of design standards to help pre-compute things like curve radii, appropriate profile slopes, and things of that nature. So in the future, we might do more with this information, but as of today, that's sort of what we're leveraging it for. So I'm just going to jump over, give you a little context of the project that I'm working in. So I live out here in the great state of New Hampshire, where we live free and die. And there is a proposed ski hill expansion that is being looked at right now in northern New Hampshire, almost all the way in Canada. So the little orange area you see there in the circle, that's the existing ski hill that's actually closed right now. And you can see they want to make it about 4 or 5 times larger. And so the project that I've selected to use to show you is actually the access road or the state highway that runs through this area. So we'll take a look at our examples in the context of this area up in New Hampshire. So let me hop over to the product, the part we're sort of here for. So I started off with some just model builder data in this case to generate the terrain. You can see here we've got some fairly rugged mountainous terrain. Not quite as rugged maybe as some parts of the country, but there's almost assuredly a 4,000-foot peak in this vicinity. And so first of all, like I said, let's just take a look at the road layout tools and how some of those work. So here we've got the existing highway as it is, and I don't have the road there because we're going to take a look at laying it out and what some of those different behaviors are as far as layout goes. So before we do any of that layout, I'll just point out, so when you start a new project inside of InfraWorks, one of the properties that gets set is this road design standard. So here on my machine right now, and today we ship with 2 sets of standards, the AASHTO Imperial set and the AASHTO Metric set. So this came from Model Builder, and it's a metric set of data, so I'm using the metric version of the AASHTO design standard here. So let's take a look at roadway design and layout and how some of this comes to be. So essentially, as I mentioned in my slide, what we do when you select one of the 4 possible road design tools is we use that to determine a design speed for the road, and then we leverage that design speed to compute appropriate radii. So I'm not going to actually start layout here, but I'll show you just a couple of examples of the difference. So let me grab just an interstate style here, and I'll just start laying out the road. So you can see, actually, let me fix one thing. I just noticed my application units are set to imperial. Meanwhile, I have a metric drawing in data set, so that's going to confuse me with strange values. So this will probably look a lot better. There we go. That makes a little more sense. So you can see here, as soon as I start the first pick for road layout, the design speed shows up as 110 kilometers an hour. So because I picked highway, we've assumed a design speed of 110 miles an hour. So as I go to lay out this roadway using that 110 kilometer an hour design speed, you can see here as I go to pick my third point, we start to see a curve formed in the application. If we go over to the curve options in the right-click menu, we can see some of that design standard and how we're computing it. So in this case, essentially what we've done is gone to the AASHTO standard on disk, and we look up, based on 110 kilometer design speed, what the appropriate spiral lengths are and what the appropriate curve radii would be for a highway with this design speed. So if, for example, rather than 110, we had a lower speed road, perhaps a 60 kilometer would be sort of a more appropriate mountain highway type speed. Then now if I go back to that same dialog, you'll notice that these numbers have gotten significantly smaller because we don't need such large curve radii in order to fit in order to have that lower design speed. So let me just undo that quick because I didn't mean to. So you can see those smaller curve radii are there. And that's, as of right now, this instant in the product, that's really the differentiator between these 4 roads tools is what design speed they initially set. They also have a slight change in terms of they do some filtering or they start the content view in a different spot as far as what they show, but all of the same content is available regardless of which tool you pick. You can draw any style of road you would like. The limit will be on what the types of curves that get introduced are. So if you're looking for the least restrictive help in terms of layout, then you'd want to go down to something like a local road. But in this case, I'll do a highway, and like I said, we will work on laying that out, but I'm going to go to maybe we'll do 65 kilometers an hour. So as of right now, it is a PI-based set of layouts. So you can see as I'm placing PI locations, we're getting those curves pre-computed for us and placed inside the model. So I can manipulate those any way I'd like. In context of the model, I can also edit those curves. And you can see here, once we're in edit mode, we derive a little more information from the standard to tell you what's influencing the minimum. So the minimum in this case is from the design standard. The maximum curve radius is what we note there as geometrically possible. So what that actually indicates, and I'm just going to rotate my model a bit so we can see a little bit better, but essentially geometrically we have enough room to fit a curve that is, let's see what I think it is, somewhere around 275 meters before this spiral and this spiral here will start crashing into each other. So that's what's really pushing that geometric max. And you can see as I push that slider all the way to max, once those two touch, we have no more room. So we could theoretically fit a bigger curve if we needed to, but in our case, we don't really need to. So I will just make a couple more edits here. So the other influence that those design standards have on my road layout is, unlike, say, really any road engineering product out there, Civil 3D, InRoads, etc., we immediately, as soon as you lay out a road, compute a FG profile, if you will, or a design profile, depending on the terminology that you would like to use. And so those design standards, again, come into play there as far as what the maximum and minimum slopes are going to be for the road. So in this case here, you can see we kept our grades between 0.5% and 2.5% grade, and that is, again, by virtue of having selected a highway in this case. So let me just pull up the profile view, and we'll talk a little bit there about what's going on. So I can exaggerate my profile. Like I said, I only had a 2.5% grade, so not very interesting unless we exaggerate the view. And those of you that are familiar with maybe a Google Earth, or not a Google Earth, sorry, Google Finance type interface, that's how this interface down here at the bottom works. So similar to the way you would track a stock timeline, you can adjust what the view range is for the profile here down at the bottom with these sliders, and then you can move the whole range if you're only looking at a portion of it. So everything highlights in both places. So if I pick this particular profile location, you can see it highlighting up there in the model. And if I were to maybe make an edit, I can make that profile edit in either place. So here it looks like we're probably going to get into some significant fill, or sorry, significant cut. So I might want to add a PEI in my profile view. Go ahead and do that there. I could also do that out here in the model view. I could make an edit and adjust those. So the model view locations, if we take a look, you can see we've got our grade in, grade out gizmos, as well as our horizontal and vertical edit, and also vertical curve length adjustments. So I can stretch that vertical curve out and make it a little bigger there. So again, and also those vertical curve computations came out of the initial AASHTO standard specified there as well. So if you're more into tabular properties, we can take a look at what the tabular properties of those curves are. I'm just bringing up the curve properties dialog so you can see all those values there. So that, I think, will suffice as far as road layout goes for now. And we'll maybe, if we have questions later, we can come back and talk about it some more. But I'm going to hop over to my PowerPoint and talk about some other really standards influence design items in the product. So the next piece I'm going to take a look at in my model is around intersection design. So there's a intersection for this highway and where it comes to the resort. and we'll take a look at how we determine the radius for things like the curve return in this project. So I'm going to hop over to a different proposal, and we'll use my bookmark to get to where we want to be. So here's the intersection. If I just spin my model a little bit, you can all see there's a road and there's the resort. I don't have any buildings. Our model builder cache in rural New Hampshire doesn't have too many buildings in it. But if, again, looking at how that selection of that standard influences design inside the product. So in this case today, when I pick this intersection, you can see here in the design vehicle section, we've got the various design vehicles specified. And so if I adjust and said, well, we expect this to be the service entrance for the resort here, and we expect to get deliveries of food from large vendors by semi-truck or WB19, I can pick that WB19, and the curb return radii for the intersection get updated to accommodate that truck traffic traveling through. So again, across the board in the road design pieces in InfraWorks, what we've tried to do is take things that are probably honestly muscle memory for a lot of you as far as trying to figure out what an appropriate radii is for an intersection curve return or for a curve on a road design, and help pre-compute some values and get you started a little faster on design rather than maybe having to check later on and take a look at those things. If I want a little finer grain detail inside the intersection, I can dig deeper and I can adjust the specific curve return radii or the tapers. If I needed a widening, I can go ahead and add that widening. I can control the transition of that widening for the intersection right there. We also, inside this area, can take a look at something like altering the lane markings. So for example, if we wanted yield lines, we can add those yield lines in. I'm not going to do those in this case. I'll just leave it blank for this example. Let's see. So the other tools are really verification tools. So once we've got some type of road design, taking a look at what's viable according to, again, the safety standards in play here. So looking at things like stopping and passing sight distances for vehicles on the road. So in this case, I've got another example that we can quickly go take a look at. So I'll zoom over to another section of the highway. And I'm going to take a look at how passing sight distance works. So I'm just going to bring up the sight distance tools. And I'll pick my roadway here. And you can see it asks me which analysis I want to run. I'm going to say passing sight distance. I'm going to look at the forward lane. If I had more than a 2-lane highway in this case, I could pick it there. But we're going to look at the 85th percentile for that road. And I'll just run the analysis here. And so you can see we get a little legend that pops up and some coloring inside the model. So here, for example, we've got a sight distance failure or a passing sight distance failure. So what that indicates to me is that if I was working on striping for this particular road project, I wouldn't be able to allow vehicles to centerline pass in this area because they don't meet this passing sight distance criteria. Here you could see, for example, in this full stretch, it says that we have a passing zone. So we could look at allowing vehicles to pass and traffic to pass each other there on this 2-lane highway. And if we zoom out a little bit, right, quite common around here, before you get into a mountain pass area, we'll try and give a passing lane to let faster traffic get past big trucks and things like that. We also identify areas where sight is very impinged and might be a problem. In this case, I don't have any obstruction failures, no red. But I probably somewhere have a potential, yeah, right in here I do. So here we've got an accident zone that's been identified. So this curve is pretty tight for the design speed that has been specified. And so what we're saying is based on the design standard, there's likely to be an accident there at some point. So we may want to do some other work there. I also can use the site pin. So if I put a particular site pinned down, we can actually get a view of what the driver's view would look like in turn as a pin on the model. So as that driver is moving around areas in the model, we can see what their view would be obstructed by inside the model. So the site distance for passing analysis in this case. So I can go back to my intersection and take a look at intersection site analytics also. So again, same set of tools, but rather than selecting my road, this time I'm going to pick my intersection. And so I'm going to go with no control on this particular intersection, but we're going to look at left turn analytics. So I'm going to analyze that. And so here we can see, again, all based on the speeds that were specified when we set up these roads, what the obstructions are for this particular intersection. So in this case, here you can see that a left turn lane is going to be site obstructed. In this case, it's actually going to be partially site obstructed by the curb from way back here. And then it's also going to be site obstructed by the actual terrain here. So in order to make this entrance safer for traffic, we would need to look at adjusting some of the site grading and also potentially changing some of the vertical profile at the intersection here to avoid these site distance issues. If I take a look, for example, at right turn, you can see, again, we have generally the same site interference problems or issues here.
Hey, Nick,
for us.
Sorry to interrupt, but we had a good question about what you're doing. Does the site distance take into consideration anything in the model or just the terrain?
So it actually just depends on the options that I've got set. So it's looking at terrain right now. If I turned on road decorations and if I had any in this particular model, it would. It will look at if I have city furniture placed in the model. Anything that's a three-dimensional aspect in the model will get included in those site analytics. And it doesn't matter whether it's intersection or the passing site distance. The only special type, like I say, is the road decoration one we enable separately. So that's where if I have a style on the roadway that has repetitive decorations, those are included.
Thank you.
So let me jump back over. I got the end of my slide presentation, but I also forgot when I gave Eric my slides earlier this week that I had said I would do a quick demonstration. We had a couple questions on the discussion forum and also in dealing with some customers in person from our sales team around left turn lanes and how we can do left turn inside the product. So I'm actually going to add a left turn lane for traffic heading northbound on the road here. So I'm just going to shrink to a bit smaller vehicle just so I'm not taking up quite so much space geographically. So the way in which we control how a road looks, how many lanes, what the general appearance is through two items. So one is the road style, so that really are the physical characteristics, how wide the lanes are, if there's a curb, not curb, and then lane counts through these lane forward and lane backward items. But we're going to do this all through style or style zones. So right now, if we just hover over this one, this road here is a street interstate standard style the whole way through. So that means that from the start to the end of this road, we have that style applied. So I'm going to add a new style zone in to start to add a left turn lane in here. So I'm just going to say add style zone, and I'm going to go up. And I've made some styles, and we'll take a look at the changes I've made in these in a minute. But I'm going to grab standard median. So I'm just going to make space for vehicles to have a turn lane once we get into the intersection. So I'll just pick a location for that style zone there, and I'll just unhighlight it so that we can see what happened. But there you can see, so now I have a median widening out. Obviously the lanes continue in my model, but we now have that median. So again, we now need the turn lane itself. So I'm going to add another style zone. And I will, again, step up to my interstate collection here. And I'm going to grab this one here. I should have named it better, but this should have been standard median, and I should have called it left turn. But I will pick that. And from the point here up towards the intersection itself, I'm going to put in this second style. So there you can see now we've shrunk the median and we make room for that left turn lane. Now you can see we've got some funny finish in terms of the left turn lane centers itself back towards the middle of the road, and then we pick up the striping. And it's because where I ended that particular style zone that we have that issue. So the way we're going to correct that is we're going to add one more style zone to there, and I have that one here. And so it is this one here. Again, I should have been a little more careful when I was prepping for the webcast and naming this, but it's copy 2. Basically, I just started with standard and copied it twice. But we will pick that one, and I'm going to apply that from this side of the intersection over to somewhere on the other side of the intersection. And now that I do that, you can see I get cleaned up left turn lane that has the appropriate values. And I can adjust where that left turn lane ends. If I wanted to have longer traffic storage, I can move that point back. If we feel like our median isn't long enough, we can move that section backwards also there. And so we can stretch out and adjust that. And it would be the same thing would apply if I had left turn lanes on both sides. In this case, I don't, unless you would like to turn into the mountain. So we don't need to do that. But let's take a look. I'll dig a little deeper into the actual styles that I built and what they look like. So I'll bring up the style palette here. We'll go down to the road entries. Maybe. There we go. The road entries, and everything was in my interstate folder. So let's take a look at that standard interstate style to begin with. So in here, what we have right now is no median group and some roadway widths. Again, looks like earlier, again, I crossed my units up, so we have some strange metric rounding areas because I was working in feet for lanes, but you can see we've got a 12 meter or a 3.65 meter lane, which is a roughly, I think, 12-foot lane on each side of the road, and then an emergency lane shoulder in this case. So pretty straightforward road configuration there, nothing too interesting. So the way that I built out the styles I need for this particular option, I then copied that one, and I added to the median group a new track. And so here you can see that track, and I made that track just slightly wider than what I wanted my total lane width to be for my left turn lane. So here you can see down here my lanes are 3.65 meters. I made it 4.26. I think I made it 14 feet instead of 12 feet is what that worked out to. And I set it to green space. If you're not interested in a green space median, we can change the material. I don't really have any more interesting materials. I have an emergency lane material that's gray set right now, and the intersection has no distinction. So I'll just leave mine as green space for now, but that's that second material. So you can see, right, so we go from the standard material to our median. The next style that we created is, again, I copied that median style, and in that median style, the change I made is I added a second element to the median group, and that second element gets added in here. And it's a little hard to see because there's now two lanes, really, but so I can actually do a little housekeeping while I'm here and update those so they're labeled a little clearer. But by adding, I shrunk the median section down to 2 feet or 0.6 of a meter, and then I added a new lane in at 12 feet into that median group. So we've essentially allowed room, and that's what makes up this left turn lane portion. And then the last thing left to do, just to clean up so that when we generate the road, we don't get sort of things starting to trail off and mess up our intersection, is I created a median, another median copy, and instead of having green space, I just have road surface there. So it's the same width as the entire roadway, just has one median lane and then the two roadway lanes itself. So that's how we can put in left turn lanes inside our model using some style sort of tricks and edits there. And like I said, if we wanted to do it the other way, we would just need an additional 2 median styles with the location or the width of the lanes swapped. So this particular style here, we would actually invert these 2 items. So I would move this one down, and you see it updated here to make the left turn lane on the other side. But we don't have that in this particular case. So those were I think all the items I had, but I was going to take a minute and see if we had any questions from the crowd. Eric, is there anything in there that you would like me to address?
There were a couple of questions about different versions of the standard. So I think you were using AASHTO. I can't recall what year, but can that be changed at all?
Yep. So as of right now, sort of shipping out of the box, we include the 2011 AASHTO standards. We obviously see the need to include more. Right now, there's none beyond the imperial and metric versions of that standard. They can be altered. I won't get into it right now today, but they are on disk, and they're essentially text files that can be manipulated. I won't say it's really easy for somebody to get in there without any knowledge, but we're talking about doing maybe a future webcast around that topic by itself. So that one's definitely something that we're looking at and thinking about.
There was another question about the median example that you have here is a grass median. Could you apply a different material to that, say concrete or something else?
Yeah. So for sure. So let's actually grab the style palette here, and I'm actually it's probably a little bit of a point of confusion, so I'll cover that right now. So inside of the style palettes in InfraWorks, we sort of have 3 classes. We have styles for things, then we have what we call material groups, and then we have materials. So inside the road, if I go take a look at one of those that I edited, for example, this standard one, you can see here up at the top we specify a material group. So that material group contains a number of materials, and those material choices impact what I see when I'm doing my selections here. So if I wanted to, I didn't really like the other options because there was not really anything very interesting. So I've already forgotten the name of that material group, so let me go just verify what it is. So it's using city highway. So I'll go to my material group, city highway, and here you can see all the materials that are defined in city highway right now. And so for example, I can come in and I can say median material, and I will go off, and now I'm left to pick an actual material for my median. So for example, if wherever your jurisdiction is, maybe you use a brick paver style median, I will select this gray stone brick paver for my median and say OK. So that's added into the material group. Now just to take advantage of that, we just go back to the style, and I can change the style, in this case from green space to, let's see here, I didn't save my change. Oh, did I forget to save my material group? Let me go double check. I did. Median. Oh, okay. Sorted alphabetically. That's fine. So hopefully. Oh, that's why. Different two material groups named city material. That's my problem. Here we go. So now I can pick median, and now we get a paver median in this case. And all I have to do is hit OK, and that gets updated in the model. Now in this case, obviously we can see the paver median, we can see the lane. Because I have that other style, I need to also go update that other style that I use. So I'll go make that change. We'll change that one to city highway also, and we will change from green space to our median material. So that one, now we get a paver median for our left turn lane example. Anything else I can field, Eric?
Yeah, there was a question about the style zones being applied to bridges as well as roads. So will it work on bridges also?
Yep. So there's no distinction made for a style zone or a bridge. So let's see if I have a good example, but maybe we'll. The power of InfraWorks is that we can rapidly create design alternatives. So maybe I will just go and create a quick road. We'll create something that's going to pass over my highway here, and we'll put a bridge on it. We can take a look at that. So by default, obviously that lined up with the other roadway. So we need a bridge if we're going to show a bridge example. So I'll just make a quick PBI edit. A little tall, half that height. And then I will go grab the bridge capability. So I will put in a precast eye girder that stretches across there. So the first thing that sort of happens there when I create a bridge is we actually specify a road or deck style for the bridge itself. So there's a region that gets created inside the bridge, and mostly that's so that you get a little better looking bridge as far as more realistic abutments and things like that. I'm actually going to swap my style out for the rest of the road because it looks a bit strange. There we go. So you can see the bridge style automatically adds barriers, automatically adds those things. But those styles are really just a set of styles here inside this bridge deck folder. So if I go in and I now pick the roadway, I can simply come to style and I can adjust styles anywhere I wanted. So I can alter this style zone and make it somewhere else, or add it, simply split it, those kinds of things. I believe, I haven't played with the bridge stuff in a while, but I believe if I switch a lane count, the bridge is still going to hold the widest lane count for its span right now. So that's that one. Anything else I can handle, Eric?
There was another one. There were a couple of questions about striping as opposed to a median. I mean, not to put you on the spot to demonstrate it, but is there a way we could do some paint striping instead of concrete or a green space?
Yep. So it's I mean, I can essentially do the same. I don't know that I've got enough. I might not get it totally right off the fly here, just in terms of what I've got for styles available, but we'll give it a shot. So let me go to that material group, and let me just add a, oh, I actually have a marking material, so that'll work. So in that case, what I'm going to do is as part of the style composition, I'm going to include those styles, or sorry, not styles. I'm going to include some markings. So here inside the median group, I'm going to add a couple of tracks, and I will move them around a bit. We'll go 1 and 1. And I'll make those lane markings. And here we'll go to emergency. We'll go to just road surface. So I've now made those part of the road surface style. So again, I might have some cleanup to do. I just did the first section, but so now you can see, right, I've got some separated road marking style. I've still got to update that second style. So I'm not quite sure what the cleanup will look like here because I didn't prep this ahead of time, but let me do the same. So I'm going to add in those two items again, and let me make sure. It might take me a couple trial and error to get these in the right spot, but 1, 1. Lane marking for each, and I will turn that into just a surface stripe. So let's see what we get. Should be fairly close. There we go. So now I've got lane markings again. I didn't have a dashed material ready, or if I wanted yellow, not white, I could pick those. But we get that striping example there, and in this case it tapers down at the finish. So you can do lots of those types of changes and edits and manipulations just by simply adding additional tracks and altering the materials for those tracks inside the style manager there.
Thanks, Nick. That was great under pressure. I was wondering if in the couple minutes we have left, you've covered style zones. Could you just quickly talk about lane zones and roadside grading?
Yeah, I can. I guess I focused lots on the standard today and not so much on the other items. So yeah, inside when I'm doing road manipulations, so I've got, again, sort of geometric manipulation, which are really involved editing the horizontal alignment or the vertical alignment. And I've also then got these other modes, right? So we looked at styles already. The other option would be lanes forward, lanes backward. So really the interface here is going to be similar to the style zone. It's actually the same. It's not similar. But I can add a lane zone over a given area. So if I decided we needed an additional lane on the roadway from, say, this station to somewhere up here, I'll go ahead and add that lane zone, and I will increase its count from 1 to 2. And so now we get an additional lane added there. And I'll probably preempt the question there. I don't currently have control over that lane transition. It is something that we're well aware of, and maybe one day we'll have a fix for that particular issue. But no difference between lane forward and lane backward other than obviously which side of the road we're impacting with those zones. So if I switch to lane backward, you can see I'm dealing with the other side of the road. I don't know if we've got any folks from the UK or areas like that that like to drive on the other side of the road. But in the model properties down here at the bottom, we have driving directions. So if you're not, you can drive forward on the left side of the road if your jurisdiction so requires. Or you can drive on the right side like most of the rest of the developed world. So that's those ones. The other option that's available in there is for roadside grading. So by default, I didn't change any options off the start. Fixed width grading is selected. In this case, this is an existing road, so I wasn't too concerned about the gradings. Here, when I was grading the new road design, I probably should have monkeyed with these, but so if I switch from a fixed width, obviously holding a certain area from the center line, to fixed slope, I can adjust my cut and fill slopes independently for the roadway. It is currently the whole road in a single bound, but if I wanted 2-to-1 for cut slopes and 3-to-1 for fill slopes, I can apply those there. If I wanted to vary those, I just simply would need to create 2 different roads end to end inside my drawing. So for example, if I wanted a varied slope here, I could start a new road, and as long as I hold my control key and don't actually physically connect those 2 roads, those will get treated as 2 separate and independent roads. So you can see they have different road grading zones, but the system will join and connect them together. I need to do some style work here, you can see, to get the styles to work a little bit better in that case. But now I have 2 independent road zones that I could control grading independently on.
So can you elaborate on what you said about the control key there?
Yeah, so when you're drawing roads, so here, let me just work up another example. When I'm drawing roads, if I simply, you see if I start to hover near this road, I'm actually going to snap my beginning point for that road to the previous road. And what it's actually done is gone into append mode, so I'm essentially now at this point, as I draw, just lengthening out the road that I was drawing. So you can see here, if I let go, I now get a longer single road segment. If, for example, I didn't want that to be the same set of geometry, or like I said, if you wanted to break the roadside grading up, then we can simply, I'll just actually undo that draw to shorten that road back up. And now if I, when I'm hovering, so I'm just hard to see on screen, but I'm now holding my control key down on my mouse, and you can see when I hover near, I don't see the other geometry appearing. So I need to then create that road, and now as I do that, I will get an entirely separate road segment that's not connected. Obviously, the limitation there being that it's hard. I need to make sure that I manually match the PI and PDI endpoints for those in order for that to all be totally copacetic. But you can see there we get 2 separate roads, and for example here, this one will swap from fixed width to fixed slope, and we'll make the grading limit a little bit wider. Should have mentioned grading limit before. If it can't obtain a tie-in grade within inside that grading limit, then it'll go to a vertical slope. So I needed to make it 50 meters with 3-to-1 slopes for that to catch there. However, in this lower section, if I go from fixed slope to fixed, or from fixed width to fixed slope, 3-to-1 slopes catch all the way along, so I don't have any issues there in my road.
All right, that was awesome. I think we've got about 5 minutes left, so I think I'll take it back over and wrap things up.
Sounds good, Eric. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and I'm sure we'll be back again for some more of these on road design. We'll take a look through the question list and build some more topics out of those. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Nick. That was great. So I just wanted to remind everyone we've got our next webcast coming up on May 20th. The topic will be InfraWorks and Civil 3D interoperability. We actually put that up on the poll last time, and that got an overwhelming response. So we're hoping we'll have a really great turnout for that one as well. That'll be from 12 to 1 Eastern. Again, watch for the registration announcement and link on the community site, Facebook, and Twitter. And that's all we have. I want to thank everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at future webcasts. Thanks.